Excellent. So that appears like we might have gone live. We're a little bit early, so let's just see how many people join us. And let me just share this. And then we should be okay. Hello, Esther. Thank you for joining us this evening. We've got a few people tagging in and joining, which is super cool and lovely. We're just a little bit before 6 o'clock according to the computer, which is cool. Can you just confirm that you can hear me? Okay, it would be much appreciated because I've had a fiddle with my computer and my settings. Good evening, Crafty Jacks. Hello, Sheila. Hi, is it Imreni? Hello, Carol. Yes, I agree. It is cold and wet in the northwest. I apologise if you can hear the rain on my conservatory roof. I do have a little fire by my feet to keep me from freezing. As I say, would someone like to tell me that they can hear me? I can certainly see me on Facebook, but if you can confirm that I can hear. As I say, I have done a little bit of messing with my Facebook with my StreamYard settings. Got a slightly different setup this evening. And I'm rather hoping it might work for everyone. If I have got it right, I should be able to swap me around and hopefully you can still hear me now. Is that cool or what? So that's that. So I can actually talk to you full screen if I want to, which is even better. So let me just swap back and we'll just move that to the bigger screen because it's a crafting that you really want to see, isn't it? What on earth? Like, oh, right, got on my things. I think you're right, Carol. Heat is way more important. So I have got a project that's slightly different for me this evening. I think it is now actually 6 o'clock. So I thought, it's really important that we think about being environmentally friendly, and lots of our wrapping paper just goes in a bin because it can't be recycled because it has foils on it or glitter, and they're banned from the recycling bins. And it's an awful lot of paper that then needs to be recycled or reused or goes into landfill. And so I thought I had to think about it and thought actually making something that was reusable and personalized would be a good idea. And so this is take number 1, and we're going to do something that's very different this evening. And I'm combining the summer novelties with the winter novelties, but actually this could be done with lots of different things. So this is just an example of that. Good evening, Liz. That's lovely. Good evening, Kim. Now, I was very lucky to pick up lots of these. So this is just a basically it's a sack, linen sack, and it's important when we're using the novelties in the summer, the batik paints and things, that we have a product that is predominantly cotton. And I've done lots of stages because of the need to have things to dry. So there we are. And it's going to be a bit of a headache to fit on the screen, but hey ha. They are rather fandoodle-dastic bags. So I'm going to put it on the wonk, and I apologise, but that's just the way it's going to have to be for now. And we're going to have a little bit of a play with some different stencils, just because that's what's lurking around. And I'm going to talk you through the steps of this process, so that hopefully we understand where I'm coming from. So let me just shuffle some of this product that I've got all over the place out of the way. So in the summer, we were treated to, she says, medium, 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 medium. to batik colours, and I think we traditionally would think of those more as summer projects, but I have a plan using the colours that we've got. So I have picked up, so this is a step-by-step but variations on a theme. So the first thing I've done was masked off an area in the middle around a statement stencil. And literally all I did was sort of approximately centralise it, get hold of some masking tape, and hi Caroline, hi Evelina, hi Kim. So we can pop that onto there and that onto there. Okay. So that this is squished down like so. And this basically then allows me to add another stencil. I've just sprayed that with some stencil spray, and I'm going to add it over some of this fluid. Now it's called masking medium, and it does what it says on the tin. I have washed and pre-ironed my cloth before we started. So I'm just going to whiz what looks like an extravagant amount of that on there, but it really isn't. I do have another pot somewhere lurking, but hey ho, as ever. Can I see what I've done with it? No. And then literally you just apply it. And I've used a different stencil on one of the samples, and that's as simple as that. You then apply that in elements all around your piece, making sure you've got a reasonable layer of the medium, and then lift your stencil off, pop it out of harm's way. So I will finish that at a later date, and voila, leave it to dry. And I really would suggest that you leave it to dry naturally. Now for this one, I've actually used this stencil on my background, and we're going to add some colour. So to do that, I didn't want bright colours. There we are. I wanted more muted tones. So the batik paints there's lots of different colours, but they come in really quite vibrant summer colours like this. Good evening, Martin. Biscuits to you too. I hope you're munching and enjoying them. But I wanted much softer colours, and I'm going for this week a wintry cools project. For those that know me well, they'll know that I really do like cooler colours for my winter makes. So included in the summer novelties is this stuff, which is the medium batik lightener, and think of it almost as being like white. So I'm just going to pop a goodly amount into there, partly because I've got a reasonable size space to add, and I'm wanting a pale blue. So there we are. So we'll just add one drop, give it a little stir. There we are. So you can see what gives me a soft blue, and that's cool. And I'll move this. And as I say, we'll do this in pieces because I've got one that I've prepped just to show you the techniques and the concepts of what I'm doing on this piece so that we get there. And I'm just going to give, when I can see what I've done with it, a little spritz of water. Now, a little spritz of water will soften your now dried masking fluid, so don't be so surprised. And literally all I'm going to do is paint this over. Now, I can see that I've got spots and things in here. Did I want the whole thing to be in pale blue? Answer, no, I didn't. There we are, it's coming out. You can see it better now, I think. Yeah, you can see where my fluids are misting and separating. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of that into there, and then I'm going to make a little purple. And I'm deliberately using the magenta for this because I think you get a nicer colour with the magenta than the red. But, you know, you get a nice purple this way. I think I might need a bit more of that. But you could just as easily use the red. So you don't have to use all of the colours. And in fact, I think on my my sample piece, I've actually used the the other one. So there we are. So we're just going to add these, spread it about, give it a little bit of spritz, and it'll start to merge. And I can colour mix these to my heart's content. There we are. And you can have an all over colour, or you can have a patchy effect. It's entire, you know, there are no rules. So literally that's what I did, all over, added in, ombreing my colours together so that I didn't have a single solid colour, and popped it aside and let it dry. So on screen you can see where the masking fluid was, and there's allowed to dry. So I'm just going to pop those out of harm's way. Okay, because this is a sample of. So carry on, do that over the whole of the piece. Good evening, Teresa. Thank you for joining us. It's much appreciated. And then we'll pop that one out of harm's way. And I've had to do this because there are some important bits of information and some important steps along the way that you really need to comply with. Good evening, Sabine. So once your batik fluid dried, then you can you need to either iron with 5 minutes at each place, or pop it in the oven to dry and then let it cool down. So put it in the oven on the lowest heat possible and just let it dry, and then carry on for approximately 20 minutes and let it cool down naturally. Once that's done, the colour will be set, and then you can wash your piece to get rid of the masking fluid, and you then end up with this. And as I say, I was wanting these soft colours. I was wanting this as my background. And then I have a plan. It's always good to have a plan, isn't it, I think? So, and at this point, I'm going to add some extra details into here. So I do have another stencil from a well-known river shop, but choose whichever ones you want. Yeah, that is the correct stencil spray. And make sure that you spray on the correct side so that the correct piece goes round, because otherwise it'll be a bit of a pickle. And that can go into there. But I'm wanting to add some extra detail onto my piece. So let me grab my stencil back, because where have I done with my stencil? Well, that's always clever, isn't it? Aha. So if we want to add some more details onto here, and I'm going to use a mixture of paints and also some of the new paste, because the new pastes stay flexible once they're dry. So I wouldn't necessarily wash them, but I think that it's quite cool. So we're going to add some paint through some of this stencil. So I don't necessarily want, or some paste through the stencil. So I'm just going to mask this area off a little bit so that I can have some different things over different areas. And it's absolutely worth the pain of doing this if you're going to do some projects like this, because otherwise you find that you have stuff that you don't want in places, and you can always lift it off afterwards. So let me just secure that down there, and we'll grab another piece for the top. Good evening, Renee. Thank you for joining us from California, from Carolina. So we now have a nice big stencil, and I don't want that. I want bad. So I'm going to add, using the delicate paints, some detailing into here. So I can either go with I actually go with either. I can go for the really nice bright glamour fabric paint, or the bluish silver delicate, and I think that I might, or I can go for the turquoise. So that there's a contrast between the two, I'm actually going to go for the turquoise. And this is going to be a little bit of a headache. Ha ha, she says. So let's just move some of this clutter out of the way, and we might pick some of the silver as well, because I need to, whenever you're stenciling on fabric, you just need to make sure that you don't load your brush by too much. So let me grab. There it is. Some paper. They are beautiful blues. Now the joy of these paints is that they have a lovely shimmer to them, so they really are just right, I think, for this time of the year. And they're quite nice and thick. They're designed as fabric paints, so I can now take off a lot of that and just fold that back a little bit, and I can pounce through. And I really would suggest that when you're doing this, you add little bits. You don't scribble like that, although you can scribble like that. Just be careful. Easier to scribble with a foam brush than it is with a proper brush, because it's less likely to push itself under. And then we can add some colour into here, and you really won't use masses by doing this. You can see why I took the trouble to make sure that I had masked off the other areas that I was using. So pounce, scribble with care, swirl with care, better with a brush, a dauber like this, than with other things. So I've now got a nice layer of paint there, and I'm doing this bit first because the paints I can dry quicker than my paste can. So I'm going to take a clean brush and some of the silver, and I'm going to pounce off most of that, and then we can add some silver now onto the bottom of those. And because the top colour isn't completely dry, they will ombre in and blend, and that's cool, because for me that's going to give me a look that I'm wanting. If you want a fixed line, then just don't, just put the two through separately, so that you don't mix them up, and just let them dry. So let me just pounce over here, add a bit more, just make sure I've pushed it into all of the nooks and the crannies, and I'm going to build up a little bit of colour as I go from here, and make sure I've got some clean-ish edges to my paste. Again, I'm not overly worried if it's not completely smooth, but I do want a reasonable effect. So hi Caroline, yeah, they're gorgeous. Thank you Sarah for sharing and liking what I'm doing. Good evening Maria, thank you so much. I think tonight is a very busy night on Facebook. There's a lot of lives going on, which will be a challenge, I think. So let me just lift that off there, and you can see now I have the words "Let It Snow." I'm just going to make sure I haven't got too much paint seep through underneath my stencil. Give that a little bit of wipe, because I can now take these and which I might take a smaller set of snowflakes, because I have lots of stencils, as you might imagine. And we can actually, I won't take that. We'll stick with the one that we've got. I will take a different stencil, and now I can add some extra details into my background. So using the same paints, same techniques, but mixing it up. So I'm sort of blending my colours, and I'm just adding, and don't do what I've just done now, which is add a whole splodge of paint on the side of my stencil that I didn't need. We'll wipe that off. So by doing this, we can add extra detail. We need to keep fairly careful there. I don't want to fill this all completely because, as I say, the plan is to be adding different layers along the way and mixing it up. So let's just add some of these. So I can just move this around a little bit, add some extra details, build a little bit more interest in my background. It's a good way of using lots of your products up and just making something that you can be completely happy with, and then just carry on building up your patterns as you want to do so. So let's just add another one of those somewhere over there, I think. Let's say this is a layer, and we're going to, oops, she says putting something in the bin. So that can go there, that can go into there, that can go there, that can go up into there. Move this over, swap it about. There we are. Oops. And if you don't get it complete, then just be careful as you pop your stencil back down. Just take your time. There we are. So let's just add a bit more silver into there, a bit more blue into there. Yeah. And then we'll move this into here, and we can add another one there. And I have got a little bit of board in my underneath my bag, so I've got some stability in there. So that can now be washed and popped out of the way. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a blast dry because I do want to add some more details into here. But I'm thinking that this is just a cute way of doing something that's a little bit different. I'm glad you like it. I had a lot of thinking about what to do. Baubles, lots of decorations. I've done a few. I do have the pleasure of doing a live on the 19th of, oops, she says, of December, which will be the last live for Pentacolor before Christmas. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a blast to dry this paint. Now I've used fabric paint, and so I would normally release dry naturally and then repeat set it again. But the choice is, you know, it's so I wouldn't consider speed drying it like this the best option. But for the purposes of a live, I think they are. Now then, I'm going to try a new trick, ladies. So let me know if you continue to hear me when I do this. Because hey ho, you don't have to cope with my ugly mugshot anymore. But if someone can just tell me that having swapped screen, you can now you can still hear me. You should be able to. But I'm thinking that this might be a really good idea for yeah, for making it easier for people to see what's going on. Yeah. So, you know, as I say, because that is a thin layer of paint, I can now hopefully, let's just give that a little dry, remove the paint from there. I can now pop this back over here, pop that down, and now I can take off carefully that and that, because the bit I want to have masked now is other words. So I think, ooh, there we are. So let's just mask this off the opposite way to the way it was. And pop that onto there. Hopefully that will take that off there. I don't want the holly that's there. There we are. So let's pop that out of the way. And let's have a flat surface. Thank you, Sheila. It's much appreciated. As I say, technology scares the bejesus out of me. So when I do something that's new or different, I always worry about... I did have a trial run with Simi, our beautiful guy from Pentart, about this. So we have some of the new products here. And if I just put white on my snowman, I think he's going to look pretty boring. It's a look. It will work. But there we are. Let's remove that off there. But I know that actually you can this is transparent pigment. Okay. So as it says on the tin, it will dry clear. But the joy of having like the pearl white paste is that I can now take this, she says, scoop out a bucket, or 3. Let's find a better palette knife than that. And I can now mix my colours to suit myself, which is always cool, isn't it? So if I mix that into there, I'm going to get a very soft blue pearlescent paste. And the transparent pigments come in lots of colours. If I still think that that is too much, and I personally think it is, for the look that I'm going for, and what I'm going to do is ombre it on my piece of work. So now I can pick up some of this, and I'm just going to pop it through the stencil in places, and I'm going to pick up my blue and mix them together. And this way I can get a mixture of colours or tones as I go. So and I'm just going to make sure I've got it all covered in the paste and hope that it doesn't squiggle underneath. I think probably will be okay because it's a nice thick medium. Okay. And I also have here the crystal paste. I can just pick up another. No. Now the crystal pastes all have silver in them, but again are in a translucent background. So if I squidge a load of that into there and pop that over there, I will now have a sparkly blue paste, as opposed to a white paste. I've got plenty of this, so let's just squiggle the last bit out of there. I've got another one of these to hand. So that way, thank you. Hello, Anne. I'm absolutely fine today. Thank you, my darling. It's much appreciated that you're asking. Okay, so I've now converted my my silver crystal paste into a beautiful blue sparkly paste. So I'm hoping that by doing this, I can show you that we can have some different effects using the same products rather than always thinking, oh, I want this, I want the other. Why don't they make it in X colour or Y colour? So this is just a tube of the silver, which I've now blocked. So we'll just add a little squodge of that there. But it's a pen application form of the same product. So I can now pop that onto there. Be careful that I don't squidge it off. Pop it over here into these and fill up my space with these. So we'll have sparkly blue snowflakes. Okay, so that now needs to be lifted off, and hopefully we will not have a mess. Voila! Excellent. I do like it when a plan comes together, because it's always a good move, isn't it, when a plan comes together? So I now have beautifully shimmery product with lots of shades of blue. Could make it whiter if I want. And I've used my summer novelties for the background. And I've masked off an area that you could put whatever you wanted into. So just because I've chosen wintry, snowy themes here doesn't mean that that's just what you have to do. So, if, you know, you could have a stencil with lots of presents on it. That would work fine. You could, let me just pick up a different stencil from there. Okay. Now, the next bit of this headache will be, I really do need to leave that to dry. But before I do lots more, but I would almost certainly use some of my paste, and I will keep these wet by popping a damp cloth over them for now. Let these dry, and then I can add more stenciling in and around the edges. But I thought, she says, standing on the flipping thing, which is always really, really good, that we might just add a shabby bow to it. So let me pop that down on the floor temporarily in an area that's not too yucky while I talk you way through what I mean by a shabby ribbon. Because I've taken, thank you, Renee, I've taken lots of strands. So I've taken some white lace, some shabby ribbon in lots of sort of wintry colours, folded them in half. I took some cheesecloth, muslin, and I've dyed that with my batik paint, so I know that those will work, and you could cover. And I've added a bit more. So we're adding. You think, well, hang on a minute, that's an awful lot, but I want this to be a luxurious present delivery, things. So I add another little bit of that, and I'm just layering these all into place. I can trim off, oops, she says, the ends when I want to. Yeah. So that's approximately in the center. And then I've got a nice shabby bow here. So I've taken 3 layers of this. She says, where's the centre of her nice shabby mixture? There we are. And I'm going to pop that into this, approximately into the centre. Remember, I can trim these as I want to. So I'm not necessarily going to leave those all the same. And then I'm going to take another piece of that hand-dyed cheesecloth, muslin, and just tie that all lot together across the top of the bow there, like that. Give that a good tie. I can now, as I say, I would be leaving this to dry. Take my shabby ribbons this needs to move, but that's okay. And this tail, when I can find the other half of that tail, there we are, can now be tied around the top of there. Yeah, that I think that they are just lovely. She said, I'm throwing all sorts of things in my bin at the moment. I do apologize. Yeah, so just add that into there, knot it securely, and I've just tied it literally around the handle of there. So you've got a really nice shabby bow that will come down here and hang. And then I've taken a lovely metal snowflake, and I think these can probably be picked up from lots of places, and I can now add a blob of that onto my bow, and then you can add into here whatever you want. So I actually had a leftover snowflake that I've painted with delicates and the white glaze, and I'm just going to pop that onto there. So as I say, once this main body is dry, let me zoom out again. There we are. So once this main body is dry, I will add some more of these coloured snowflakes around if I want to. Might just use a plain silver, might use some of the cream paste, but I've got a gloriously shabby bow at the side and a product that I can now use time and time and time again. And I've noticed that actually I've been super quick, which is incredible. So whilst that is dry, we might carry on and add a few more bits and pieces just because we can. So let's see, we can avoid some of the other bits and pieces around here. We don't want to get it too much on, but I think that's going to be safe there. So, as I say, it is a question of just, say if I wasn't on a live, I would almost certainly just do this as, step by step by step, let each piece dry as I go, rather than trying to do it all in one go. But there we are, we can build. So I think that, as I say, it's going to be slightly problematic because I've got stuff that is wet that I can't put my piece onto, and I would almost certainly choose to let some of these areas dry before I carried on adding lots of different details on. Ooh, she says, I don't really want that on there. But you can then carry on and add to your heart's content. There we are. And you can see then how you can build a beautiful collage of different effects with a limited number of products. And as I say, I think you'll find that actually having the ability to change your paste into different colours will make a huge difference to the overall piece that you're making. So I am going to let that dry properly because the more I add now, the more I'm going to end up with stuff merging and breaking into each other. So as I say, the only other thing I might do is put some of the cream paste, the pearl white snowflakes in on top of that, but not for now, because as I say, if I try doing that again now, I'm just going to have an almighty mess, and that's never ever a good look, is it? So I'm hoping that has been a useful activity really for people. I appreciate that that's quite a quick demo. So if anyone has any questions that they want to ask me about how I've made this piece and what I've done, please feel free. As I say, that's the wet one. But if you want a completely different look, let me tuck that one safely onto the floor with stuff so it doesn't get damaged. No, put that over there. I will photograph that and it can be posted in a picture tomorrow. But if you want a completely different look. Good evening, Olympia. I've just finished the main demo, darling. But it is on WhatsApp. This is a completely different take on that project. So I think that it will show you just how completely different they will be. And this will have a shabby bow with reds and golds and greens. So for this piece, what I did was I took the Stamperia Poinsettia stencil and put my masking fluid through it, let that dry completely, diluted some of the bright red down and spritzed my whole piece and then flooded it with the red, building up some colour gradients as I did and adding in some of the lightening medium in areas where I wanted some some contrast and some shading. Then let that dry before heat setting it all. I then took fabric paints in greens and browns and added my stenciling. It's another Stamperia stencil with my pine leaves and my pine cones. Let that dry, heat set it, and then I've added elements of gold from the same stencil. And this uses the gold crystal paste to add these. And then once that had dried, that then allowed me to use the red glaze paste to do the Merry Christmas in here. And these are designed to stay soft and malleable. So on the fabric, I can scrunch it up. I could put it onto my ribbons if I want to, but it's not going to go anywhere else. So I'm rather hoping that that's been a useful activity for people, that it's that's a little bit different from my usual things. But sometimes I think it's really cool, isn't it, to try things that are different and not necessarily always stick to the same things. When we've got crafting products in our stash, then I really do think we should be aiming to make the very best and very most of them. So I really think that that is it for tonight, because it's freezing in my craft room, and that's what I wanted to say really. But there's quite a lot of prep and steps that you need to do that I short-circuited by doing them ahead of time. But I'm hoping that some of you will have be inspired enough to want to make some of these, and if so, please tag me in your products. In the meantime, stay safe, enjoy all of your Christmas festivities, and I will be back for Pentart on the 19th of December, which will be the last live before Christmas. So if anyone's got any suggestions about what they might like me to make, I'm thinking maybe cookie cutter decorations. I'll leave that out there. You can contact me. You can say yay or nay. But I'm thinking again a little bit about using stuff that we might have in our house, but using it a bit outside the box. Thank you, Rennie, for saying that you've enjoyed the live. Thank you, Sheila, for liking both of the projects in the 2 different colourways. Julie, thank you for those lovely hearts. Sarah, thank you for saying you like it. It's gorgeous. So I'm rather hoping now that that will be all. I do know that some of these products are quite difficult to find in the UK. I know That's Crafty have got them in the UK, and also Mad Archers has some of them. but you might have to hunt around. But for now, I wish you the very best for the rest of the evening. Take care and goodbye.